Hello and welcome to the Corner Plot. My name's Helen, and this video I'm going to show you how I actually then made my tweed skirt from the pattern that I drafted from a free historical pattern that I found online. I've got a link to the pattern that I'll put in the description, and the process of drafting the pattern, if you're interested in that, I have a video which I'll link at the top. Here is the fabric I'm using. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is a lovely Harris tweed that I bought in a charity shop for £5. I had about 5 meters of it at that time. I've made a few things out of it. I covered a couple of card tables that needed refelting with that, and I then made a dog bed out of the remainder because I needed a dog bed and I had no idea what to do with the fabric. So this fabric is then reclaimed from that dog bed, and I'm making a tweed skirt out of it. So I hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get on with it. I've laid out the pattern pieces on my tweed and I've just got enough room. I've got the front piece here, which is on the fold, so that flips over here. That's got to be on the grain, so that pretty much deals with that whole area, because I can't quite fit one of these in there, but I can get the placket and the waistband and possibly the pockets out of that section as well, so I'm not too bothered by that. And then I've got 1, 2, just 3 and 4 sections, leaving me a little bit down the end, which I might be able to make a flat cap from, possibly in the future, which would be nice because then that would match the skirt. Otherwise that's extra for pockets and so on. A couple of things with the actual tweed, in that I have here where I've marked this square, there is a hole, so I have to be careful of that, which means I've had to move this one down. So I don't have very much room between these two, and these pattern pieces are without seam allowance, so they get a little bit close down there, but it might be fine, it might be fine. And then I've pieced it here, sewn the two bits together, which isn't too bad a join, but that of course does add thickness. I'll probably put it at the back of the skirt so that it's less obvious. Oh no, is that another hole? No, that's just a bit of thread left over. That's all right. Ooh. It's not perfect, but as I say, it was used as a dog bed. You can see where this was obviously the top bit, where it's a little bit more faded than where it would have been the bottom bit. And that's a little bit obvious, but I'm not going to waste the fabric. So I'll flip these two bits over and use the other side of them, but I'll have to use that side of those ones. I'll try and put it together in some semblance of order. But there we go. Happy with that. Right, I've made the bold step of cutting out my pieces in my lovely tweed. I pinned the cotton material to it and then cut it out. I do have this is the right side, so this is what the skirt's going to look like. I've just spent a little while organising it so that the least faded bit goes on the outside, and then I've tried to shuffle it so that all of the seams, we've got a seam that's on the selvage and with the grain against a seam that's on the bias. So you've got, this is the front bit, so you've got bias, straight edge, and then bias at the back, bias, straight, and then bias at the back again. So you've got a bias seam at the back, but such is life. And then I had thought that these two panels where I've got the join, so you've got the join here and the join there, I thought these two panels could go at the back. Actually, I'm going to have to make this one of the side panels and that one of the back panels, just because of the colour of the fabric. If I'd thought about it better, maybe I could have done something with that, but I doubt it. So this is it, and this is all of the fabric I have left. So if I want to make any pockets, it's going to be this fabric, and if I want to make a waistband that is out of the same fabric, I'm going to have to make it out of that as well. So and of course for the placket as well, I need to make that out of that. So I'm going to have to be very, very careful how I cut those out. But all in all, I'm kind of getting there. The flat lining stuff is only pinned to it. So now what I want to do is just do a basting stitch on them, which is going to take ages. I'll get those up on the table because I don't want to accidentally sew them to the carpet. So now I need to baste them together, and then I can start thinking about pinning them all together and getting them sewn. Fun times. So I'm just completing sewing all the panels. You can see where I've pad stitched it together. It's quite thick. I'm amazed at how thick it is. It's going to be a really warm skirt, and the fabric kind of almost feels quilted. It's quite nice. This is the back seam, so I'm just putting the placket in place, and hopefully then I can sew up the back seam and sort out some kind of waistband. The one thing I really like about the Harris Tweed is that the sewing needle goes through it so nicely, and actually hand finishing it is going to be relatively okay, I think. There's going to be a fair amount of hand finishing to do, but I think it's going to be, it's quite thick. Like here with the placket, you've got 3 layers of fabric. It is going to be quite thick. It's going to be a really warm skirt, I think. But now I've got the placket in place, I haven't pressed it or anything, I'm going to just finish this back seam and then see what we can do about a waistband. And then, once I've done that, I'm going to see how much fabric I've got left for pockets. I think I might just have enough fabric left for a couple of front sort of patch pockets. And it would be nice to have some fabric left for some little false buttons as well. I think that would be quite cute. But it depends on how much I've got left and what fabric I've got left. I'm quite tired, I've been at this for quite a while. I looked at the clock earlier and it's 2 AM. Late night sewing seems to be my thing at the moment. Right, well I had to unpick the waistband because I accidentally sewed it on the wrong way, because I had to join 2 bits together to make a decent waistband, and I accidentally sewed this the wrong way around. But now I have sewn it the correct way around, and put the pleats in the back. Put it on to measure myself against my waist, and I think that's about right. There's this back seam here that needs sorting, but I'll probably do that by hand. And then we've got the placket. So I think, apart from potentially hemming it, which I might do by machine, I think everything else is all hand sewing. So the waistband is sewn on right sides together, and then this is the selvage edge here. So that's quite handy, because that means that when I fold it over and tuck it under like that, I don't then have to fold it again, because this is a lot of fabric. So I can just tuck it under like that and enclose the raw edges, and then the selvage itself shouldn't fray. So that's really handy. And I've got a bit of overhang here for hooks and eyes and buttons or whatnot. The inner seams, I don't really know what to do with those. I'm going to fold them open. And again, I don't want to fold them again because it's very bulky. As long as you sew along the warp, the threads actually don't show up terribly well. You can see the tacking stitches here, but that's because they are much bigger stitches. But if you do smaller stitches on this side, then they actually don't show. So I'm hoping I can put the long stitch on this side to sort of enclose this raw seam, and then the smaller ones on this. Otherwise I would sew it just to the lining, and that was my original intention, was to sew it just to the lining, but we shall see. We shall see. And then of course I need to actually hem it. Anyway, that is a job for tomorrow. I've spent hours and hours and hours on this already. It is absolutely beautiful and I'm really thrilled. All of this gorgeous fabric. I think I will only just have enough material to do some pockets, which I will line. I will line with this. Oh, there's a sharp thing in there. Do I have a pin? Is that a pin or a needle? Oh, it's a pin. Random pin. Okay, I thought I'd gotten all of those out, but apparently not. So there may be some more hiding in there somewhere, but I'm sure I shall find them one way or another. And then I need to decide what to do with the hem. I've got no material left for any kind of binding, but I dare say I shall figure that out when I come to it. There are a lot of tacking threads to remove. I'm just doing the waistband at the moment, and actually stab stitching along here is actually creating quite a nice flat cross section. I'm going to go along here and then up and back along this section as well. So I'm doing a little stitch here, and then on the back going across, coming out here, a little stitch there, and a back and across. I could actually have done herringbone stitch. That probably would have made more sense. That actually would have made more sense. But I don't know. I don't know. This is how I'm doing it because I'm working the wrong way. So don't do what I'm doing. Do a herringbone stitch. That would have made a lot more sense, but I'm more than halfway now. I'm not going to unpick it and go all the way back and do it the right way. So this is why I say I need to learn how to do these things properly, because if I'd have learnt how to do this properly and actually thought about the correct stitch rather than just a way of sewing it together, I would have done a herringbone. But I mean, it works. It works. It's not maybe as pretty as a herringbone would be, but actually you can't see it very well anyway, despite the fact that it's quite a striking thread difference. Because there's so many colours in this, it's actually not too bad. So I'm just going to keep on going. So I'll do a herringbone here maybe, because that will then be pretty. So I'm just going to do the waistband, then I'm going to work my way down all of these seams, and I'll do a herringbone across these then, working down those. And then when I've done all of that, I'm going to hem the bottom. There's a lot of work in this, you know. A lot of work and a lot of hand finishing. But that's okay. That's okay. Once I've done all of everything, I think the finishing touch will be to put on the pockets and some kind of closure. I haven't decided on the closure yet. I do have some hooks and eyes, some quite strong ones like cloak, hook and eyes, because this is quite a weight. So I may have to go for those, but we shall see when I get there. Not that I'm making it up as I go along. I am thinking about it, but as I say, I don't quite have the experience yet. Now, once I do have the experience, once I have done several projects, once I've sewn several skirts, once I've made several jackets, once I've made several shirts and so on and so forth, I will learn how to do it properly and how best to do it, and it will just become how I make these things. But this is a learning experience. This is me suddenly realizing, now that I'm vocalizing it, what I should be doing. I have now finished felling down all of these seams. It's a 5 gourd skirt, which means that there are 6 of these seams, which means that 12 times have I gone up or down. And it takes a long time. So I've done a herringbone stitch. Don't know if you can see it. There you go. So I've done a herringbone stitch along, working my way from left to right, and just catching a little bit of the actual fabric on the other side, so that it doesn't then show. So you see here that actually you can't actually see where it's caught, which is lovely. One thing that's brilliant about tweed, it's nice and thick, it's quite easy to catch a thread and have it not show. So now I'm going to turn this baby inside out, put it on, and see what I can do about the closure. I have this hook and eye that I've saved. It's the only hook and eye I've got, so I've pinned it on here for safekeeping. And I may need more than one for the actual closure, because otherwise I'll worry that it'll come off. And it would just fall right down if it did. So I will work out where that's going and put that on the waistband. Then I can try it on properly and work out where the hem's meant to be, because the last thing to do after the closure is to put the hem on, and then we are done. And this is the finished item. I'm really, really pleased with how this turned out. Given that it's the first time that I've really made a skirt from a pattern that I've made myself. In fact, that it is the first time I've made a skirt from a pattern that I've made myself, and probably only I'm probably still in single digits as to the number of skirts I've ever made. So I'm really quite pleased with this. I found skirts in the past to be quite daunting because it's the hemming of it, trying to get it even. And this one certainly was fun. When I was hemming it, I basically was standing wearing it, because I don't have a dress form, standing wearing it, and my poor partner was on the floor saying, well, this is 2 fingers and this is 3 fingers and this one's 2 fingers, and me then marking where it was and sorting it, putting it back on again, and then he was very patient with me. So really, I think I would like to have a dress form. I don't know where I've got the room for a dress form, but maybe at some point in the future, that's what I'll do. The other thing, of course, would be to make sure that once I've hemmed one skirt, if I can then make sure that the pattern reflects that, hopefully there'll be very little need to do it again in the future, to that degree. But no, I'm quite pleased. I'm really chuffed that I've managed to do a whole skirt out of that fabric. I really didn't think I could. I've got very little left. I'm quite excited about what I might do with that. But the skirt itself, I've got my mock-up skirt underneath just for protection, just as a petticoat, because these seams, because it's tweed against bare leg, that's quite itchy, and I don't really like that, obviously. So I'm going to have to figure out something to go underneath the skirt, either a petticoat, which would help give it a bit more body, or knickerbockers, basically, long knickers, which I've got a few patterns for, So that's a possibility. But I've never made those before, nor have I ever worn them before, so that will be interesting. It's all fresh ground to me. I wore skirts for school as part of my school uniform, but other than that, I don't really like wearing skirts. But I love this skirt, it's really strange. So I think my next skirt project will probably be a 7 gore version of this, obviously not with tweed. Find a lighter fabric that doesn't need interlining, that's going to drape nicely and make a 7 gore skirt. I already have a fabric in mind, which is part of my haul that I got from IKEA. And I need to go back to IKEA to get even more fabric because I'm somewhat hooked. But yes, here we are, here she is. And the closure at the back with the placket is quite good and secure as well.